everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Cutting Room Floor. I'm Larry. I'm joined by Pastor Wes
Good
today.
to see you all.
Yes. Can we just start with a brief moment of silence?
Yes, our staff is reeling today.
The whole
and
Grace
volunteers.
Church staff is struggling, and we invite you to join us in a moment of silence for Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A is closed right now.
It's like...
And every Wednesday we have a meeting. And
everybody
most people
brings
get
lunch from Chick-fil-A.
I know. So
as we're recording, they're starting their Wednesday meeting in there right now, and I don't know what they're eating.
I don't know.
Some of them, that's all they ever bring.
I know. It's going to be wild to see what recipes emerge from this.
I saw somebody bringing a homemade lunch in there. We're in a whole new territory.
We are. And we've made it through the bridge closure. We've made it through some things.
But
so maybe
now they're messing with our chicken.
That's right.
I don't know what to do about that.
And they deliver, so yeah.
I know. It's just, I don't know what we're going to do. They are reopening if you're listening and you're not in Cape Coral.
Shout out Chick-fil-A. All right.
They're going to remodel. They're going to reopen, be better than ever. And Grace Church staff apparently will continue to support the remodeling.
Yeah.
So we had a great weekend,
Yes.
notwithstanding Chick-fil-A's closure last week. This series, we're just getting so much feedback from
We
people.
are. It's really meeting people right where they're at, and again, it's the stories of Jesus. You know,
Yeah.
There's an old song I think you probably know. Tell me the stories of
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yep.
You know, I long to hear.
Yeah.
And there's something that happens in our soul when we hear just about who Jesus is and who he can be for us.
Yeah.
And
I've really been enjoying the series. It really hit me though when Pastor Sherry at Teaching Team said, "I think this is one of the best sermon series we've ever done."
Yeah.
And I mean, she's got this long track record with
Oh,
this.
I know,
and
yeah.
I was like, okay.
yeah, that's saying something.
I've got 2 years in and almost 2 years. So anyway, it's just been great. And I was off this week, and I was kind of bummed about it because I really wanted to preach this story.
But your daughter got her third grade Bible. I mean,
I got to be dad for and
Yeah.
you know, Taylor Foley got to go down to Central, and when I left to come over here, he was just crushing it. It was so good. So we talked about the healing at the pool of Bethesda.
Yeah.
And it's just such a great story. I want to jump right into. I had a baptism meeting with somebody yesterday, and they were just talking about having been there and how. So the story made so much more sense.
Oh, yeah.
Having been there, and I think you did a great job describing a lot of that. So in the scope of this whole story that you've probably known for a long time, you probably preached it a bunch of times. Where was the start of this for you? Was there a line or moment, an image that made you feel like, okay, this is the new piece that I want to go for in this?
Yeah, I think the new piece, really there's two of them. The first is the realization, and I didn't have it until we were working on it together as a team, that Jesus was really in the wrong place with the wrong people. And I just always kind of skipped over that line, that he came to Jerusalem for the religious high holy festivals, and the writers don't name which one it was, but these involved a lot of worship and feasts and festivals, and there were conditions to get into the temple, and it was only the people that met these certain standards that could be there. And Jesus himself was a rabbi, but he's not in the temple. He is out in Bethesda, this pool, which the other cool thing is it means house of mercy. And so it's almost like, grace has left the building. The temple of God, the presence of God was, in their belief system at the time, was only found in the temple. And yet now Jesus has gotten loose, and he's gone to the place that you least expect him. It's the Skid Row of Jerusalem. I mean, it's the places that we'd rather go around than through. And so that was a cool piece. And
I about came out of my seat when you said grace got loose.
Yeah, it does. I know. And that's one of the fun things about this story, but it's also the most meaningful because that means Jesus will go and meet us anywhere.
Yeah.
He will meet us in the worst possible situations. And even if the unthinkable happens like it had for this guy, like he's laying there for 38 years, unable or unwilling to get well, and Jesus comes and meets him right where he is.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus is the initiator in this.
Yeah.
So he didn't call out to Jesus, nothing. Jesus goes to this place. Maybe he hears about the guy, I don't know, but he goes up to him. But just the fact that he's in that spot and not sitting in the Holy of Holies, not in the courtyards. He's not teaching on the temple steps, which you can go and see those steps. I mean, and we've both stood there.
And having been there, he's on the whole wrong side of the temple complex.
Yeah,
Even like
yeah.
like this, that's not where. It's not like he was on his way up to the temple and stopped. No. Like he's on the other side.
This is a serious detour.
Yeah, it's a big detour.
And the sheep gate is there.
Yep.
And that sounds nice, but it's not Baba Black Sheep. This is not a little kid story. The sheep were used to as sacrifices, and so it's going to be noisy and smelly and all that. And then it's filled with the people that nobody else wants or sees, and it's the outcasts of society. And they the pure Jewish leaders, Pharisees, Sadducees, they would regard these people as sinners and unclean. And so when the Bible speaks about something wrong physically, typically they're using that to mean something's wrong spiritually, something's wrong physically, something's wrong emotionally. It's a comprehensive thing.
Yeah.
So this guy had lost it all.
Yeah.
And Jesus comes to him. That's cool. That was the first surprise.
Yeah.
And the second surprise is the question that Jesus asks. Because seriously, when I was growing up as a preacher's kid with a lot of sarcasm and a lot of rebellion in me, this was one of those questions that I just think, what the heck kind of question is that? Because Jesus asked the man, do you want to get well?
Yeah.
Well, of course he does. I mean, you would think, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
And so as you press into that question, because I've had to face that question in my own life, do I want to get well? And I think Jesus is asking us that same thing.
And it's not the only time Jesus does that. It's his thing with questions, right? But it's an invitational posture. He says it to the blind man Bartimaeus.
True.
Bartimaeus comes to him pleading with him. He goes, "What do you want me to do for you?"
Yeah.
What do you
he's
think?
Blind, Jesus. Yeah.
So in the Chosen TV series, which I know a lot of folks have watched, in the Pool of Bethesda, when Jesus asks him the question, "Do you want to be well?" the guy looks at him and he goes, "Man, I'm having a really bad day."
Oh, okay.
and Jesus says, "You've been having a really bad day for a long time."
Yeah, he's having a bad life.
Yeah. So it's an invitational thing. Do you want to be?
Yeah, it's not
made
an
well?
accusatory. It's not harshly spoken. I can't imagine. And again, Jesus' concern is what's brought him there, and it's his unconditional love for this guy that takes him to even into the conversation.
Yeah.
And yet he wants to pry into his soul a little bit. He wants to uncork not just the surface level problem, but the deeper issues.
Yeah. And I think as you camped out on the question, I don't know if you said it this way, but what I was thinking about was the risk of change. And that's part of the question.
It is.
There's a risk of that. Can you say more about that?
Yeah. Sometimes I can grow comfortable in my current state of dysfunction because the thought of change, I think that's part of my brokenness, and probably all of our brokenness, is that we resist change. And yet God has baked into the universe and even into our souls to change. That one of our favorite hymn writers, Charles Wesley, said we are to be changed from glory into glory till in heaven we take our place, right? And that change is baked into the whole message of the gospel. Paul said you can become a new creation. Well, that involves change. It involves transformation. It involves growing up into maturity to become more like Jesus. That's what following Jesus involves. And so in anytime those changes are on our horizon and we face a crossroads perhaps, we have to choose to be a part of it. Jesus isn't going to drag us along. He says, "Follow me."
Yeah.
And there's something about this man that Jesus has an insight to, that he has most likely just grown comfortable in his current state, as bad as it is. And I've had untreated depression and anxiety, and I've had sorrows that I didn't want to share with anybody, burdens that I've tried to bear alone because I didn't want to risk telling other people. I've had discipleship takes discipline, and so it involves things that sometimes we'd rather not do until we get into it, and then we find, wow, when I cooperate with God, unbelievable things can happen.
Yeah. And that was the next place I was going to go. You talked about how healing and discipleship requires our cooperation. Like Jesus is the one doing the healing.
Yeah.
But the man played a role in that, a cooperative role, and we do in our own healing too.
Yeah. So when my cardiologist, I have to go regularly for my artificial heart valve, and she asked me, are you taking your medicine? Are you walking? Are you eating the right things and staying away from the wrong things that are going to mess with your heart? And she's going to use her expertise to help me, but she's expecting me to participate in that. I can't just passively, lay there and expect to get well. I have to cooperate and follow their instructions. And that's a poor example, but it's close to what Jesus, I think, is doing. He is a great physician, and he wants to heal us, but he can't do it in spite of ourselves. We can put up a wall and keep him out, and it can almost be counterintuitive to us in our nature to follow him, even to ask for help.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if the guy, did he stop asking for help? I wonder about that. Maybe he asked for help for a while, but then he said, I have no one. So maybe he's just gotten so isolated that he's stuck. And that's why Jesus really asked him that question.
Because he kind of sidesteps Jesus' initial question.
Yeah.
Like, I have no one to get me to the water.
Yeah, that's not what Jesus
That's
asked.
not what I asked you.
He didn't say, where are the people that put you in the water? He said, would you like to be well? Would you like to be healed?
So there's another line you said in that same vein. You said hardship had become his home.
Yeah. Hardship had become his home, and I think his infirmity became his identity. And I can understand it. Again, so when it comes to our identity, I'm I want to share with everybody that you're a child of God, person of worth. And that means that I'm not Wes, the anxious one, or I'm not depressed Wes, or heart patient Wes, or back when I struggled with anger, I'm not, that's the angry Wes, And those kind of infirmities, if you will, can sometimes become our identities.
Yeah.
And I used to say, well, that's just the way I am. Well, I don't have to stay that way. And, I can't help it. Well, with Jesus, he can help it, but I got to be willing to let him.
Yeah.
And so, for a while, when I first was struggling with depression and anger, is how it mainly came out. I had a doctor tell me, you need to go to a therapist. And I'm like, no.
I'm here to see you.
I know. Just, do what you got to do to make me better. He's like, well, what you need to do is go to see a therapist and do talk therapy and get some of this stuff out of your soul that you've been carrying around. And I had to go and participate, but it took me several years before I even agreed to do it. And so that's what I think, that's how I can relate to this guy.
Yeah.
Is in that spot. And it's a pretty sad situation. I mean,
Yeah.
for him to say, I have no one.
Yeah.
Because Jesus is right there. He's going to be his someone.
So there's initially, he's not even willing to
Doesn't seem like it.
to enter into cooperation with this. And you said, without God, we can't. Without us, God won't.
Yeah. That's Dr. Steve Siemens, one of his lines. And
I'm glad you gave him credit.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have felt really bad.
Well, he and I had a conversation about that. I was actually struggling. I had already moved here, and I just called him out of the blue, and he took my call, and we were talking through some things about praying through difficult situations, and I was like, do I bargain with God? I mean, how does this work, this mystery of prayer? And he said that was his bottom line. He said, let me just break it down for you like this. He said, without God, we can't do anything. But on the flip side, without us and our participation, cooperation, and really surrender, God won't, or he's not able to.
Yeah.
Really, because, you've got kids, there's only a certain amount of things you can make them do. I mean, once they hit 2 years old, I mean, the game on. I mean, it's now becomes a battle of wills.
Yeah, and that goes back, to your opener of the sermon. There's so many different things we can do with a horse. But you can lead it to water, but you can't make it drink.
I thought it was so ironic that a horse could do therapy on a human.
Yeah.
I don't know what all it involves, but we can't make a horse drink. I mean, it's up to the horse. And that same thing we know is true. And coaches used to say that to us. I'm sure parents say that. School teachers say that. There's only so much you can do if the person is unwilling.
Yeah.
To help. And I just wonder how much of God's power have I self-limited by just putting the lid on it.
Yeah.
Like, what if I just continued to surrender in new ways? And I've been trying this out a lot more lately, and it really works. It's actually true. Like, what I want to do is one course of action, and then I'm like, well, what if I follow Jesus? And I try his way, and it works.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
But it works, but I have to be willing.
Yeah. Which is why Jesus asked the question.
Absolutely.
Because there's some hard stuff that could come from this.
Yes.
Yeah, and we see that. That's part of what hit the cutting room floor was
We didn't have
initial
time
exchange.
to get into we got the story, but there's a controversy that happens when the teachers of the religious law who are spying on Jesus, they're not at the temple either, ironically. That just occurred to me.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, they're so hot about Jesus that they're chasing him during
So
the high holy
they're
festivals.
also skipping the high holy
But
festivals.
they're not there to minister to people. They're not there with any kind of mercy.
Right.
They're there to kind of insist in their own understanding of earning your salvation. And so they come to this guy and they get after him and scold him for carrying his mat. Jesus says, pick up your mat and walk. And so he becomes obedient. He follows what Jesus says. And it's really cool.
Wow, okay.
So he's holding his mat. It happens to be the Sabbath day. And so that's what they nitpick this guy about. But Jesus' grace is even more on display in his response because they ask him who healed him, and he didn't know. So he
no idea.
He's got a superstitious belief about healing, that some mysterious angel comes from the heavens and stirs up water, and that brings healing to the first person in the pool. But then he doesn't even know the identity of Jesus. I mean, this guy is clueless of the whole thing. So it's all grace.
Yeah.
And now he finds himself in trouble with the religious leaders. And eventually Jesus comes and finds him out. But this is some of that building tension that takes us to Holy Week, which is next week, is the controversy grows as the Pharisees and leaders begin to feel like they were losing control on their grasp of things.
Yeah. So there's probably somebody listening today or somebody who's listening on Sunday who feels like they're 38 years into whatever stuckness they're in. What's the word for them in this?
Well, it's to be willing to let Jesus do something new. And the prayer may begin, Lord, help me become willing. Pray about our willingness, because I am thinking and discovering in my own life, I think Jesus wants to do more in me than I've been allowing him to do.
Okay.
He wants to make me into his image that he created me into. And then sin, Satan, and selfishness screwed it all up, And yet he loves me so much, he wants to restore all that. And that involves change. And so that means I have to let go of my way. And sometimes my way is just coping, escape, ignoring, those kind of things. And Jesus wants me to lay all that down, just to be willing to let him do what he's going to do. And so I think the willingness to be willing is the first prayer, because I do think once Jesus gets involved and we're surrendered and we're available and we're willing, then the possibilities are almost endless of what he can do. He can fill our lives with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Some of those things have seemed like outer space to me. Self-control, no, it's just the way it's not the way I am. Joy, well, I don't know. Peace, I struggle with peace sometimes. But Jesus can give me those gifts if I'm willing to allow him to do that.
Yeah.
So I have to put myself and I encourage everybody to put yourself in the places and the spaces with the faces that can help encourage us in that journey of willingness.
Okay.
So when I surround myself with you and other people here at Grace Church, then something happens in my spirit where I become more willing. I get extra encouragement. I was having a rough week, and I texted my men's group this morning and from Grace Church, and they've all just been sending me texts all day. And I was this morning discouraged, and I've noticed throughout the morning and the day, my soul has been lifted, my spirit has been lifted, and I'm becoming more willing to let go of some of the things that I'm trying to hold too tightly to. Somebody just sent me a text, Wes, God is in charge. Let him do what he wants to do. You got to let go. And that's a phrase in recovery that I've heard, let go and let God. And that sounds really cool, but living that is hard. But that is what it comes down to.
Do you think some people struggle with the letting go piece because they think God's angry with them and like?
Yeah, that God, our image of God reveals quite a bit about us, and so who do we think God is? Because if we think that God is some angry ogre, then and he's out to get us and he's going to smite us, then of course you don't want to don't want to surrender your life to them.
Right.
But our God is perfect in love. He is. There's three words that are used to describe God. Describe God, not just God's character. It's God is loving, God is light, and God is life. He doesn't just promote life. He doesn't just bring light. He is light. He is love. He is life. That's his core character, and we see this on full display in Jesus. And so that's who we have to understand that Jesus and God and the Lord is, because if not, then we would be foolish to trust ourselves to somebody that's out to harm us. And yet that's what is so beyond belief. It's this grace.
Yeah.
Because this guy, what did he do to earn this? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. He had no accomplishments
Yeah.
in his life. And Jesus came to him and loved him. And that took his willingness, though, first. I wonder if Jesus had come up to him and said, pick up your mat and walk. I wonder, if I was him, here's what I would say. Yeah, right, dude. Because he didn't know who Jesus is.
Yeah.
He never heard about this rabbi from Nazareth. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? You're crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm paralyzed, but you're crazy. And so I think Jesus had to start with that question about willingness first, instead of just blessing him with the healing.
That's good stuff. Is there another 10% on that on somebody that's feeling stuck in the willingness piece?
Yeah, I think it's recognizing that we do need to lay down our life and let Jesus lead our life. It comes down to our will, and to know that our God is good helps, because I'm I'm entrusting my life into the care of a loving, perfect, good, just, wonderful, indescribable God. That helps. I'm not putting my trust in some human institution or some person. People let us down. And I think sometimes we transfer those wounds to God. And the cool thing about God is he's big enough to take it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that we misrepresent his character. And I think that might be the worst thing of using the Lord's name in vain, is giving some character to God that we put on him that's not true. I don't think taking the Lord's name in vain is written so that we don't use foul language. I think we don't need to use foul language. The Bible does say that, but using the Lord's name in vain means misrepresenting his character.
Yeah.
And so I want everybody to know that God is good, and he is kind, and it's his kindness that the Old Testament tells us. It's his kindness that leads us to repentance, which means to change, to turn. And so that's the first thing I'd say. And then I would say, taste and see. Okay. Try it out. Try to be obedient to Jesus in one area of life.
That's good.
And just try it. I say, with this relationship that's struggling, I'm going to try it the Jesus way.
Yeah.
I've done these experiments, you know.
Pick one thing to experiment.
Yeah. And his way is better. I'm telling you.
I know we always joke around here. This following Jesus stuff really works.
It really does, because we face challenges and temptations and all the stuff that everybody does, and recognizing that we don't have control, but the Lord can lead us and guide us in those challenges, and to turn the results over to God, to just trust, to obey. And to trust and then leave the results up to God. That's something I'm still learning, but I encourage all of us. And I think it's a continual journey. That story's in the Bible, and it reached, there were people there that have been following Jesus for 80 years that heard that message and have told me that God was challenging them in new things. And then there were some brand new folks there. Had been to our church, maybe that was their first time actually, and reflecting on that. So, this is a constant journey of maturity. Is our willingness.
Yeah, so that's why I love what we did with the stickers, and I've seen them all sorts of places this week, and we're only a few days in, like on people's cell phones. Mine's on my cell phone. Jesus is willing, am I?
Yeah.
And his willingness is to bring goodness and wholeness into your life.
Yeah.
Am I willing to cooperate?
That's it.
With that.
Yeah. So when I texted my men's group this morning, I woke up just like, wow, there's a lot of pain, and I have some pains in my life, and so I texted them, okay, guys, I'm going to practice what I'm preaching now, because the Lord said, you need to share this. You don't need to keep it in. So here I am sharing it on a podcast. But I've noticed that throughout the morning, my burden has gotten lighter because I'm giving it away. I'm giving it to God through the gift of people. And these are trusted people. It's not just some random
Right.
person.
Yeah.
So
We're not venting it to the podcast either world.
I'm not telling you all the gory details. You don't want to know that.
Turn it up. Here it comes.
But we're in the journey with you, you
Right.
know, and taste and see.
Yeah. That's good. Well, hey, this has been good. We've got Palm Sunday this week with another story.
Another amazing story.
No, it's beyond belief.
Yeah.
It's absolutely what it is. I can't wait.
And this one may be the best one so far. I
Yeah.
mean, God is just continuing to
and
pour
I
out.
think it's one of those stories like so far. I'm not going to give it away, but so far they've all been very recognizable stories. If you've been around church for a while,
That's right.
you know these stories.
Yeah.
This one you may have just
It's a
brushed
little
right
more
over.
obscure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You kind of give it a quick brush sometimes
Yeah.
by, but so we're this Sunday we start Holy Week with Palm Sunday and that message series, and then we have all sorts of things going on at Grace Church across
Yeah.
all the campuses
Yes.
for Holy Week, and hope that you'll check that out online and see ways that you can plug in to that, and we'll be back next week talking about the next series.
That's
the,
right.
The next
And we'll
installment
leave
in
it
the
as a
series.
cliffhanger.
Yeah, right there. So we'll see you next time on
All
the
right.
cutting room floor.
Take care,
God bless
everybody.
you.